This video supports co-ops in reaching 50% gender parity for women and non-binary people, and increasing representation of equity-deserving groups, including Indigenous peoples, Black and/or people of color, people with visible and invisible disabilities, and 2S LGBTQ+ and/or gender and sexually diverse individuals.
Just coming from this place of wanting to create a space for ourselves as racialized immigrant women who we found in the world of urban planning, it was pretty top-down, hierarchical, very white, very male. And we wanted to find some meaningful work for us that would also sustain us and would also cater to our whole selves as people, that we can come in and take care of each other. And also to cultivate a space for people like us, for other racialized immigrant women to have a way to make a living and also a way to make connections that are meaningful.
We came together as a BIPOC collective at the beginning, and noticing that our perspective and our needs, and as racialized communities, especially as women of color, is not being included in urban planning and social planning. And we gradually shifted it toward shaping a business, a cooperative, and here we are today with City and Colour Co-op. Making trust, building connections, it's not that easy for racialized communities. It's also another challenge.
Just the amount of connections and partnerships that we've developed so far in this relatively short amount of time, we've been able to reach just all sorts of awesome and cool people to work with who share these values of equity and trauma-informed sort of community-engaged research within planning. So it's been very energizing for me to know that there are other groups and individuals who are interested in this kind of work that is alternative. And you know, coming from urban planning school, there was a very monolithic way of doing things. So you had to follow a certain formula, and in City and Colour, we are really excited about doing things differently. And so meeting people who share that ethic in vigor for this work is pretty exciting to me. It's very much connected to, I think, the excitement, which is lots of partnerships, but also lots of pushback, which I think is expected when you're working in the realm of equity and racial justice and anti-oppression, which is also not necessarily the only work that we're doing, but when it comes to trying to make real changes, I think you do see more of a resistance to certain initiatives, and we see that with, you know, just bureaucratic pushback or a lack of response when it comes to certain projects. And so I think the challenge has been to figure out how to navigate these relationships that are resistant to change, but also trying our best to penetrate those systems that we are trying to change. So it's been, yeah, it's not been a linear path, but I would say it's a lot of learning opportunities for us.
There's always challenges with, like, you know, the work that we do in equity, for example, and like leadership and like the support that we get from like institutions. And so people are excited about our work, but like I don't know how easy it is for organizations to implement the recommendations that we might suggest. So I think these are going to be challenges that we're going to like come along the way. We also, part of our work is to listen to you know, those voices that are often not heard, and sometimes these are stories that are very hard, and you know, touching and, you know, being able to like honor this work and honor these stories and like and share this knowledge with the greater public. I think it's something that is important and challenging, you know, to make it in a good way. It's really important to share with them, sort of like in this space where we are solid state, where I think you can really see these values of like care, you know, every day when we share a meal. And so I think even from the beginning, welcome them to the space and welcome them like to share a meal with us and like sort of like demonstrate like that these values that we share are, you know, are present here in this space, I think. And I think from there we can move on into like working together, knowing that we're starting from this culture of care.
I mean, at City in Color, as well as Solid State, where we are, we really make it a priority to see each of our individual well-being as important as the work we're doing. And in fact, that we take care of each other is the work in itself. Because, you know, from a common sense perspective, if we're not doing okay, the work is also not going to be, it's going to drag along with our bodies and ourselves and our wellness. So one of our priorities is really to take care of the people here. And I think at City in Color, we're very good at working, and the underside of this is that we get burnt out quite easily. And I think collectively we've had time with each other to know if somebody is burning out, if we see the signs, oh, okay, like I see that you're not doing well, maybe you should take a little bit of a break. And it's often received like in a very generous way, okay, or I don't need to, and you know, we respect each other's decisions. But I think there's that sense of that you don't have to be okay all the time, and if you're not, then you can take a break and pause. And we'll be there for you. There's no resentment, and it's fine. And I think this is also part of a larger pattern when, you know, you're a BIPOC woman, you're an immigrant, you want to do great things, you want to prove yourself, and there's a tendency to do more than you should. And I think as racialized women, we all feel this way of this fear of like not doing enough, of not proving ourselves enough. And in the co-op, we want to come in and understand that each of us is enough in who we are, and that we don't need to overextend ourselves in this capitalistic, very neoliberal way of being together. You know, that you have to be perfect, that you have to be in a good mood in order to do the work. So I think at City in Color, we're very intentional about cultivating a space where we can be fully human and also make a living and also honor our passions. So yeah, I'm really proud of the way we're doing things, and also excited about the ways in which we can improve. Well, if we're talking about accountability or responsibility within the equity world, it's hard work. So, but it's also very exciting work. But it's also very trendy work. So it's at this equity work, I think, is at it's almost like peaking at this point, right? So everyone wants to do it, but or everyone says they want to do it, but not everyone is making the tangible commitment to actually doing it. And by that, I mean, is there funding being given to your equity work, or is it just mostly all about appearances? You know, is it about tokenization where you take pictures of your promo and there's like a few BIPOC individuals and you call it a day? Or is it actually taking care of individuals from day one, you know, from onboarding until they join the organization, or even from the hiring process, really? Because at City in Colour, we're looking at all these mechanisms within cities of hiring, retaining, and promoting racialized women. And what we're noticing is that, you know, organizations would say, we're very diverse, but all the diversity is at the very bottom. And, you know, the few women who have made it to the top, the few racialized women that have made it to the top have stories that echo the similar pattern of, it took me 2 decades to get here and I'm the only one. And so what does that say about, you know, organizations claiming that they're diverse champions of equity, but there's only like a few people who are really representing this diversity? And even beyond just the numbers, I think it's also worth asking, are we, as if you're an organization, like how do our people feel? Like, do they feel connected? Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like their work is meaningful? Are they being cared for? If they're not doing so well, is there enough leave? Is the salary enough to meet their needs? Are they a caretaker? Are these, you know, all these factors that we ought to consider when it comes to equity, are they being considered? It's not just about checking boxes and filling out like a report that says we're diverse. So I think when we're talking about responsibility, I think we ought to look at like the larger picture and not just see this work as one of the, it's not a temporary work. It has to be embedded within the entire thing. Otherwise, if it's just like, you know, an equity officer checking boxes, then I think there's reevaluation that ought to be done on the side of those who say they're committed to this, and asking what commitment really means.
Okay, so I think, I mean, one of the greatest things that I find about, you know, working in City in Colour is like this idea that we have a safe space for us to experiment and be creative in the work we do, and there is, you know, support and enjoy, like, you know, people are like genuinely excited about doing things in a different way and bring a fresh take on this work. And so I think that's what makes it joyful. You know, we're here together, we're exchanging ideas, we're brainstorming, we're like thinking outside of the box, and we are allowing ourselves to do this this work. We're allowing ourselves to like think creatively and like bring solutions or ideas that are not currently there, you know. And so I think that brings at least me a lot of joy. And we're hoping that like that through that work we can also create these spaces for joy with the community.
I love my work, and never in my life would I imagine I would say that I love my work. You know, I've always like held, not always, but in my life I've held like very left-leaning politics, and part of that is, you know, the renunciation of work, like anti-work, no work. But like coming here at City in Colour, at Solid State, I realized that work can be this very beautiful thing. And, you know, that it's something that doesn't have to be drudgery, that we can make it our own, that we can use our talents and gifts to make a living. That to me is monumental.
work culture here and how to create a work environment that you enjoy. I think that I should mention the important role of solid state here that cultivates this culture of sharing and caring in a work environment. And we were talking a little bit before we start this conversation that I wish really that organizations like Solid State we will have more of this in other cities, and to help actually kind of unlearning this usually dehumanize practices in a work environment, to remind workers and remind employers, people who are in this field, that there are other values that are important for work environment, and they need to. And at the end of the day, when people feel better, when we pay attention to their well-being, they will end up even making more profit for the employers. Empowering workers to create their own businesses and to cultivate this culture, I think it's really important. Talk about a lot the different aspects of EDI, and we know that many organizations, even their retention rate is really high, but when you delve deeper into that, you don't see they stay in their jobs because they are happy with their positions and they're happy with their work environment. They stay there usually because they have no better options. They know that they will go to another job environment, and it's the same story. And paying attention to the well-being of employees is really important, and it's something that even with the current best practices of EDI is somehow neglected, being paid less than other aspects. And I think that we need to advocate for that and talk more about it.